Daniel Sunday, you are hereby sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole for cyber fraud targeting international victims. Possession and use of charm soap and ritual materials for financial manipulation. Attempted murder with intent to use a human for ritual sacrifice.
From a narrow street in Abeokuta, where poverty slept in open rooms and dreams were hung on rusted nails, came a boy who was once the pride of an entire neighborhood. But sometimes the brightest stars are the ones that burn out the fastest. Daniel's house sat at the far end of Okeaje, a tiny, fading structure made of brown cement and aluminum sheets that clattered whenever the wind passed. He was born into lack, raised on hope, and groomed by discipline. His father, Pa Sunday, was a woodworker who hadn't held a steady contract in months. His mother, Mama Bose, fried akara in front of their house, selling to school children each morning. Their home didn't have much, but it had something many others didn't: a boy whose mind could change the world. Daniel was not the loud type. He walked to school barefooted for years, but never once did he complain. His uniform, always washed and sun-dried, clung to his skinny frame like it was stitched onto his skin. Every teacher who met him said the same thing: that boy is going somewhere, and so they poured themselves into him. In school, Daniel was a phenomenon. He wasn't just the first in class. He was always first with a margin, solving math problems in seconds and writing essays that left WAC examiners praising his penmanship. By the time he graduated secondary school, his name was already echoing in the community like prophecy. Dr. Daniel, the neighbors called him. "Nah, him go lift this family." So when the JAM result came and Daniel scored high enough to study medicine and surgery, there was a celebration. His mother danced in the street. His father borrowed money to throw a small party. It felt like the beginning of a new chapter, not just for Daniel, but for his entire bloodline. Daniel resumed at the university with nothing but a Ghana must-go bag, a pocket Bible, and 5,000 euros in his pocket. And for the whole of year one, he remained focused. He sat in front during lectures, avoided parties, and lived in a tiny off-campus room with only a mattress on the floor. He read through nights and passed his exams with flying colors. He was determined. But the world Daniel had entered was nothing like Okeaje. He started noticing the difference in his second year. His hostile neighbors didn't read like him. They hardly attended lectures. Yet they wore designer shoes, had multiple girlfriends, and drove cars students had no business owning. Most nights they played loud music and partied with girls till 4 a.m., only to return the next day with stories of online deals and clients. At first, Daniel ignored them, but poverty has a way of haunting you, even when you're on the right path. The first time it hit hard was when his mother called. She was crying. Her akara stand had been destroyed by rain, and she needed money to fix it. Daniel had nothing to send. The next week, his father was arrested for owing a wood supplier. He felt helpless, worse, ashamed. How could a future doctor let his parents suffer? That night, while sitting alone under the hostel staircase, a boy named Kelechi approached him. Kelechi was known for his flamboyance, always in designer tracksuits with a golden wristwatch and a loud voice. He had watched Daniel for weeks and finally said, "Guy, you dey suffer unnecessarily. You get brain pass everybody here, yet nah you dey trek pass. You want make poverty kill your parents before you blow?" Daniel didn't reply. "Make I show you something," Kelechi said, smiling like the devil in disguise, "but only if you get mined." Daniel knew what that meant. Rumors about Yahoo Plus had floated around campus for months. People whispered about boys who made women fall in love online, only to drain their bank accounts. But these weren't ordinary scammers, they were ritualists, mixing charms with deceit. Still, something in Daniel cracked that night. He thought of his father's torn wrapper, his mother's swollen feet. If life won't wait for him to graduate, maybe he didn't have to wait either. The next week, he went with Kelechi to a remote village in Ijebu. There, he met the native doctor, a man with white eyes, a necklace of bones, and a voice that felt like thunder buried in sand. "You want money?" the man asked. Daniel nodded. "You must bathe with this soap," the man said, handing him a black bar wrapped in red cloth. "It is made from what women fear to lose. When you use it, they will do anything you say. Send money, cry for you, even die for you." Daniel hesitated. "Only the brave enjoy life, my son. Your future has already started. Or do you want to go back to frying akara with your mother? And just like that, the boy who once carried hope returned to campus with a new purpose. He bathed with the soap that night, created a fake profile on Facebook, and messaged a woman in the UK named Clara. 2 weeks later, Clara sent him £5,000, and it didn't stop there. Money began to pour in. Dollars, pounds, euros. Daniel changed his wardrobe, bought a used Mercedes, rented a luxury apartment. He stopped attending classes and started throwing parties. Girls came in droves, alcohol flowed like water, and for the first time in his life, Daniel tasted power. But what he didn't know was that the soap came with an expiration date. 2 years, exactly 2 years after the ritual, Daniel's time would run out. The native doctor never told him the full truth, not until it was almost too late. They say when the devil gives you shoes, he doesn't tell you where to lead you. Daniel was wearing new shoes, driving flashy cars, but the path beneath him was soaked in blood, and the end was closer than he ever imagined. Daniel's transformation was almost cinematic. In less than 6 months, the quiet, brilliant boy who once spent nights reading under a shared hostel bulb had become a campus sensation. Big Dan, they called him, always in crisp designers, Versace, Balenciaga, Dior, and his fingers sparkled with rings said to be protection charms. He stopped going to lectures. Who cared about anatomy when he could earn a surgeon's lifetime salary in a single transaction? Daniel now moved with a squad, boys like Kalechi, Chuka, and Dollars, all deeply involved in Yahoo+. Their circle had rules: loyalty to each other, no falling in love, and most importantly, never question the native doctor. They were fearless, or so they thought. At night, Daniel would light candles, place the charm soap in a calabash, and bathe in silence while chanting the words the native doctor gave him. Then he'd wear white, sit before his laptop, and start conversations with foreign women. It always worked. The women, mostly divorced or widowed, would fall madly in love within days. He'd send fake tears, false stories, and photos pulled from the internet. They would send him thousands of dollars. He bought a new Benz, moved into a high-end apartment with LED lights and velvet curtains. There were always girls around, some of them paid, some just desperate to be near him. Every Friday night, they drove to clubs in Lekki, popped champagne worth a student's tuition fee, and tossed Naira notes in the air like confetti. But the nightmares began exactly 14 months after the ritual. At first, it was just flickers, blurry images of shadows chasing him in his sleep. Then, it became louder. Blood, screams, a woman crying out in pain, a figure dressed in white pulling him by the throat. Daniel would wake up sweating, gasping for air. He started getting scared. He stopped bathing with the soap for a while, hoping the dreams would end, but that only made things worse. His luck with foreign clients dried up. Messages were left unread. Women blocked him. The ones who used to send dollars now reported him as fraud. Panicked, Daniel returned to the native doctor. He drove back to Ijebu, alone, desperate. The compound was quiet as he walked in, but something felt heavier in the air. The native doctor was waiting, eyes closed, as though he already knew what Daniel had come for. "I warned you," he muttered without looking up. Daniel knelt. "Baba, I've done everything. But these dreams, these women, they cry in my sleep. I can't breathe." The native doctor opened his eyes and stared deeply into him. "You were given 2 years. Your time is almost up." Daniel froze. 2 years? He whispered. "Yes," the man said calmly. "The soap was made from a woman's womb. That womb gave you power, but it must also be renewed. If you want to live beyond the mark, you must find another one, before your heart stops." Silence. "What do you mean by find another one?" Daniel asked, though he already feared the answer. The native doctor leaned forward. "Another womb, another organ, fresh, alive." Daniel stumbled back. "You want me to kill someone?" "No," the man said with a cruel smile. "I want you to choose life. For yourself. Someone must die for you to live. That's the price of power." Daniel left the shrine shaking. On the drive back to campus, he tried to reason it out. He thought about going to church, running away, confessing. But then, his bank app pinged, another payment from a recent client. $8,000. Just like that. The money was addictive, the lifestyle intoxicating. His fears melted once he entered his penthouse and saw two ladies waiting for him in lingerie. And just like that, the dreams were buried under music, weed, and lust. But something had changed in Daniel. He became cold, detached. His laughter grew darker. He began researching rituals online, searching for the easiest way to collect what the native doctor needed. His eyes now saw women differently, not as humans, but as tools. Then one night, he met Miriam. She was a 100-level law student, beautiful, gentle, new to campus. Daniel met her at a karaoke night. She was different, soft-spoken, shy. He pretended to be in love, bought her food, gifted her an iPhone, told her she was special. Miriam fell for him. When he invited her to a hotel one Friday evening, she said yes without suspicion. His plan was simple: sedate her, take the organ, deliver it to the native doctor before the month ended. It would be done, and he would live. But fate had other plans. In that hotel room, while Daniel stood by the window trying to steady his hands, a knock came. Room service. The hotel worker, a young man named Tunde, pushed in the door with a tray of food. But what he saw next made him freeze. Miriam was lying on the bed, half unclothed, dazed and barely conscious. The room smelled of blood. On the side table were a small knife, burning black candles, and a calabash filled with strange leaves. Tunde excused himself and quietly called the manager. Minutes later, police stormed the room. Daniel didn't fight. He didn't shout. As they cuffed him and read his rights, he simply bowed his head. His time was up. They say the truth has a way of surfacing, sometimes not through screams or sirens, but through silence. In the cold, still interrogation room, the once untouchable Daniel sat, broken, ashamed, and ready to speak. But no one was prepared for the evil he would unravel. It had been a long night. Miriam, still groggy but alive, was rushed to the university health center. The hotel worker, Tunde, became the unintentional hero. His alertness had saved a life and opened the gate to a horrifying underground world. Daniel was silent for hours. He didn't ask for a lawyer. He didn't ask for water. He sat on the cold steel chair, staring at the floor like he was waiting for something or someone. The officers didn't beat him. They didn't yell. They just waited. At 2:14 a.m., Daniel spoke for the first time. "I'm ready to talk," he said, voice trembling. The lead officer, a calm, middle-aged man with years of experience in handling cultists and ritualists, brought out a recorder and nodded. "Start from the beginning." Daniel took a deep breath and then it poured out. He spoke about his childhood, his brilliance, his dreams of becoming a doctor, the suffering of his parents, the hunger, the humiliation, then the temptations, the money, the men who looked like gods on campus, the desire to belong. And then he mentioned the soap. The room fell silent. He described how he was taken to Ijebu, how the native doctor bathed him in blood, how he was given a black bar of soap made from a woman's private part, how he was told to use it before chatting white women online, and how, ever since then, money had poured in. "I didn't know it was real at first," he said. "I just wanted to help my family. I didn't mean to go this far." But what shook the officers wasn't just Daniel's confession. It was the names he mentioned. Kelechi, Chuka, Dollars, all students, all popular, all living above their means. Daniel called them his circle, the boys who introduced him to Yahoo Plus. He named them all, where they lived, where they met, the rituals they had done, the women they had scammed, the lives they had ruined. Then he named the native doctor, Baba Aluko, a man with no online trace, a ghost in the system. But Daniel gave them the location, a compound in Ijebu, surrounded by thick bushes and guarded by charms. He warned them, "If you're going there, go with pastors and police. That place is not ordinary." By dawn, a full task force was assembled. They raided the shrine that same morning. What they found was beyond belief. Rows of calabashes, female underwear soaked in blood, used sanitary pads, and even a buried jar filled with what was later confirmed to be human parts. The place reeked of death and ancient fear. Baba Aluko tried to escape. Kelechi and 2 others were arrested from their apartments. The last suspect, Dollars, attempted to run to Cotonou, but was caught 2 days later hiding in a brothel. Back at the university, the news spread like wildfire. Yahoo boy caught with charm soap. Student confesses to ritual killings. University boys linked to native doctor for Yahoo Plus. Daniel's name was everywhere. Students who once took selfies with him now deleted their photos. The girls who once begged to enter his car now claimed they never knew him. His reputation turned to ash overnight, but the hardest blow came when his parents were called. Mama Bose fainted at the station. Pa Sunday sat silently, his hands trembling. "Is it true?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Is this what you used your brain for?" Daniel wept. "I didn't know how to stop, Papa. I just wanted you and Mama to rest. I wanted us to eat 3 times a day." But it was too late. Their brilliant boy, the one who made neighbors proud, was now a criminal, a ritualist, a condemned soul. The trial began 3 weeks later. The courtroom was packed. News crews camped outside. People came from nearby towns to witness it. Miriam testified bravely. She recalled how Daniel gained her trust, how she woke up half naked in a hotel room, and how God used a hotel worker to save her life. Then came the evidence: the knife, the calabash, the candles, the charm soap, the money trails, the chat screenshots with foreign victims. Daniel didn't deny anything. He stood in court, hands cuffed, head down, and simply said, "I accept my punishment. I just wish I could turn back time." When the verdict was read, the courtroom fell silent. "Daniel Sunday, you are hereby sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole." A gasp echoed. Some cried, others clapped. But Daniel just stood there, eyes empty. As he was led away, Miriam looked at him one last time, not with hatred, but with a silent question. Was it worth it? Behind every fall there are witnesses, some who cheered, others who warned, and many who simply watched, silent, distant, powerless. Daniel's downfall was not just his story alone. It was a mirror to a society that clapped for wealth but never questioned its source. While Daniel rotted behind bars, the world outside kept turning, but not without scars. His case became a sensation across the country. Social media exploded with hashtags like #Say No to Yahoo Plus and #Justice for Miriam. Radio stations debated it for weeks. Universities held awareness campaigns. But amid the outrage and headlines, a bitter truth began to surface. Everyone had seen the signs, and no one said a word. At the university, Daniel's former lecturers held their own shame. Professor Adeyemo, his first-year anatomy teacher, remembered how he once called Daniel the brightest mind in the class. He now flipped through old test scripts and sighed. "He stopped attending lectures by 200 level, the professor murmured to a colleague. "We just assumed he transferred or dropped out, but deep down we knew the kind of wealth he showed on campus wasn't from scholarship grants.